about 9:35 p.m. on Wednesday, June 3rd, and I am in Richmond, Virginia for Deacon Matt's priestly ordination.
Hello and welcome to the Deacon Year, a weekly show about the life of at least one transitional deacon preparing to become a Catholic priest. I'm Deacon Matt. It's Friday, June 5th, 2015, and I will be ordained a priest tomorrow. And Deacon Kiehl, Deacon Will, and I are here at the Cathedral of the Sacred Heart in Richmond, Virginia. We just finished up an ordination rehearsal for tomorrow's ordination of myself and two classmates to the Catholic priesthood. So it was a long afternoon, lots of running around and practicing, but I think we're ready to go. So the ordination will be tomorrow morning at 10:30. Okay, so it's Saturday morning, the day of my ordination, and I just finished with Kiehl and Father Jason, our Office of Readings and morning prayer, and I'm getting ready to go to the cathedral to just kind of be there and get any last minute things resolved and just kind of have some downtime before the big moment. So very excited. More anxious really than nervous. It's a good kind of, energy. And I think I just have more energy than I know what to do with at this point. So it'll be nice when we can just get going and get the ball rolling.
They are. Deacon Matt's ordination, like all other priestly ordinations, can be broken up into several key moments. And it all began with the election of the candidates immediately after the proclamation of the gospel.
Let those to be ordained priests come forward. Daniel Andrew Carter. President. Matthew Allen Kiehl.
After Deacon Matt and his brother deacons, Danny Kogut and Nick Mammy, were called forward and declared worthy to enter the order of the priesthood, their bishop, the Bishop of Richmond, Francis de Lorenzo, gave a brief homily on the priesthood, in particular, at this Mass, on the happiness of priests. After this came the important moment of the promises of the elect, which I covered in a previous episode.
Resolved to be united more closely every day to Christ the High Priest, who offered himself for us to the Father as a pure sacrifice, and with him to consecrate yourselves to God for the salvation of all. I do with the help of God.
After the elect made their rather formidable promises of priestly service and living, the entire cathedral joined together in a litany of supplication, calling for God's help, God's blessing, and for the intercession of the angels and saints upon these men seeking to serve God's people as their priests. Meanwhile, the elect lay prostrate on the ground, signifying their complete surrender to God, quite literally laying everything out there on the line for the service of Christ and His church. Next came the central gesture of the entire rite of ordination, the laying on of hands by the bishop, an ancient gesture which signifies the conferral of the Holy Spirit and the consecration of these men to priestly service. Also, all the priests gathered together to signify that they are participating in the bishop's ministry, laid hands on these elect, including Father Jason Harris, our friend and classmate who you first met as Deacon Jason, who was ordained the previous week. After the laying on of hands by the bishop and all the priests who were present, the bishop prayed the Prayer of Ordination, which is this most central prayer of the ordination liturgy, which informs what just happened in the previous gesture, namely that calling upon God's power and the Holy Spirit, these men are in fact priests, ordained through the laying on of hands and the calling forth by the Holy Spirit. At this point in the liturgy, these three men who walked in as deacons can now be called priests, and to show that, they were vested as priests for the first time in liturgy. called forward, chosen, and ordained as priests, and then, looking as priests, vested as priests, they then went forward to have their hands anointed by the bishop.
Lord Jesus Christ, whom the Father anointed with the Holy Spirit and power, guard and preserve you, that you may sanctify the Christian people and offer sacrifice to God.
Next, a paten and chalice containing the gifts of bread and wine were brought forward by the mothers of Father Matt and Father Danny as they were escorted by their family. While the rite for ordination simply states that some of the faithful bring forward these gifts, I've found that it has been customary in dioceses across the country for the mothers of the newly ordained to bring forward these gifts. And if you think about it, it is a rather poignant moment when one considers that these mothers present not only bread and wine, but in this very liturgy they have presented their own sons to lifelong service in the church. The bishop then ceremonially hands over the gifts of bread and wine to the newly ordained.
Receive the oblation of the holy people to be offered to God. Understand what you do, imitate what you celebrate, and conform your life to the mystery of the Lord's cross.
The final principal moment of the rite of ordination itself is the sign of peace, shared among the newly ordained and the bishop and all those priests present there, to signify that they have in fact entered fully into this fraternity of brother priests. The Mass then continued as normal with the liturgy of the Eucharist, but this time with the newly ordained priests taking their place around the altar for the very first time. After the Mass had concluded, many of the faithful gathered around outside, waiting in line to greet the newly ordained and also to receive the first blessing. The next morning, Father Matt celebrated his first full Mass as a priest.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
The Lord be with you.
And with the Spirit.
Behold the Lamb of God. Behold him who takes away the sins of the world. Blessed are those called to the supper of the Lamb. May Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
After the Mass, we were finally able to step back from all of the festivities and begin to take stock of things. What's it like?
Oh, it is wonderful. I tell you, totally awesome. Far beyond whatever I expected. You really feel loved, I think, more than anything else. Very humbling, very, very humbling. And beautiful day, outside, inside, great folks. Yeah, couldn't have asked for anything better.
How do you do?
He'll realize it more on Tuesday, because Tuesday, like 2 days later, you start thinking about all the people that you saw in blessings line. It's kind of a blur, like today, but once you get to Tuesday and think, wow, all those people came, it's really remarkable. It's very cool. So it kind of hits you just a little bit later. So
You have, what, 136 hours of...
136 hours of priesthood.
On-
So it does. See, it's done 7 masses, and 7 masses in 3 states. So that's pretty cool.
After a whirlwind trip to Richmond, I am now back in Pasco, and I am as excited as ever for my own ordination now that Father Matt had made it look so easy. In the meantime, I am looking forward to visiting my future parishes together with my future pastor, and I look forward to sharing this with you next week. Until then, I ask that you please be sure to keep the newly ordained and those who are about to be ordained in your prayers. Thank you, take care, and God bless.